Hey guys, welcome back to my next book preview video. This week we have Draw. Brett Bean breaks down the art of drawing. So a quick look at the front and back there. This is a 3DTotal book. It's pretty thick, as you can see there. We'll check the page count in a bit. So this one just came out about, well, a couple of weeks ago at the time of me recording this. So let's get to the contents there so that you guys can pause this if you want to have a proper look through this. You are going to be able to tell this book covers quite a lot of content actually. So in fact, let's check the page count now. Yes, so I just checked and there's 220 pages, so it is a decent size. It's not too packed with text throughout. It seems to have a lot of information, but it's spread out very much in what I call a bite-sized way, bite-sized chunks. You know, mainly images with some text, not like an Andrew Loomis book or something like that where it can be a little bit overwhelming, as great as those books are. So we start off like most art books do with a typical sort of, you know, materials used and how to use them. I do think he's got quite a nice layout with them showing examples of each medium that he uses. So, you know, the pencils, the inks, I think there's a bit on Copic markers, or alcohol markers I should say, and digital and different work processes basically. I haven't read through this book fully, of course. I only just got it through, but I did notice he's very creative with his approach. So, for example, things like this, he seems to just have quite a lot of fun with his process, and I think that really is one of the emphasis of this book, I guess you'd say. So it is filled with like tips, you know, throughout. Obviously, there are tutorials and a lot of information, but yeah, it really does. It's really about being creative, is this book, as well as learning. So it's quite an interesting one, quite unique, really. And this book contains quite a lot of fundamentals. So, you know, a good example is the foreshortening, the contours, the perspective, things like that. If you pause and read the introduction or the contents, you'll know there's quite a lot on things like anatomy. It certainly doesn't mean it's an anatomy book, of course. And you're going to notice things like this working with shapes. It's stylized, so he both gives you the foundation of what you need to draw, but it's very much, Brett's style, in my opinion, he's got quite a range of styles, but they are quite cartoony, quite exaggerated. Again, quite fun is honestly a way that I would describe them. And at one stage in my art journey, let's call it, I wasn't really big on this kind of thing. I much preferred realism, and I always thought that, you know, if people were doing cartoony stuff, it wasn't as good at one stage, but I've very much changed my mind since, because when you look through this book, you will see that Brett really does understand the foundations or the fundamentals of drawing. And whilst I know there's a lot of books that do teach you, you know, fundamentals of drawing, I think a book like this is one that's going to be good for both beginners and advanced artists. So again, one of the appeals of it to me is it's a much more interesting way of learning. It's a lot more fun. It's creative. It's not overwhelming, not just in the layout, but, you know, the examples are more interesting. If you are an advanced artist or further along in your journey, you know, you've been drawing for a while, I always think to myself that it's quite good to go back to basics consistently and, first of all, retrain yourself, you know, take in the information. The more you read something, the more it's going to stick with you, but also very good just for filling in, you know, holes in your knowledge. But if we talk about being a beginner, I think this book would be really good for beginners. Again, I think there's information for everyone, but because it covers so many things without, you know, being a book just on one area, I just think it makes it more realistic for people to get an understanding of, you know, everything they need to be able to start drawing. I do like in the 3DTotal books as well, when they've got these small sort of introductions or interviews with the artists, I've noticed that quite often the artist does emphasise things about, you know, having fun with what you're doing and not stressing yourself out. I know that that maybe doesn't sound very important to everybody, but I know throughout my own art journey that actually it's really important, because it can really make you, you know, give up on art or lose the love for art if you stress yourself out, if you put too much pressure on yourself. You know, it talks about it being a marathon, not a sprint, or whatever the saying is. So I think it's quite good to have a reminder like that. As well as that, I find it quite inspiring reading other artists' experience. For this one, for me, I'm very interested in this sort of back section where it's like the design, the character design. He actually does go into environments, characters, creatures, and also vehicles. I always like to stop in my book preview videos as well to show when people have included reference and how they've exaggerated it. That's something at the moment that's really, something I'm really interested, I should say, at the moment. I always learn fundamentals and things, but I never knew how to then turn those into exaggerated styles, how to come up with, use the shapes and create something different. So I think something like this is really good. And although I'm not overly familiar with Brett's work, I know that he is very good at what he does. He's worked in TV, film, comics, games, everything really. I also think a book like this is just a slightly easier read anyway. Like, this is the kind of book you could take with you and, just find interesting. Pull out your pen and paper, or even if you don't have that with you, I just think you're going to pick up tips regardless of what level you're at. And also the exercises that he gives you do look quite fun as well. So, definitely worth getting in my opinion. It definitely covers a broad range of topics, which I really like. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching.